What is up, everyone? Welcome to Titletown South Florida, the Miami Herald's brand new show about high school sports in South Florida. And why Titletown? Because that's what we do around here in Dade and Broward. We produce champions, and we're going to bring them to you throughout this coming season. It's been a great season of high school football so far and the fall sports, but let's get right into it. My name is Fernandez. Some of you might remember me from back in the day when we used to have another incarnation of a show similar to this one for many years, where we looked at the best athletes in South Florida, best football players, looked at the next step for them, brought you a lot of stories about the top athletes and coaches and individuals from both counties. And the goal was to resurrect it and bring it back, bring some version of it back, and we hope you enjoy it. My co-host this week and for many weeks on this journey is going to be my man David Wilson, who joins me today, sports writer for the Miami Herald. We're also going to have Jordan McPherson on the show, off and on, helping us out here and bringing you all kinds of perspective from his end as well. But David, it's been a great season so far. Like I mentioned before, 3 exciting weeks. And what have you thought so far about how crazy this high school football season's been? It's only 3 weeks old, and we've already had some great games.
Yeah, I mean, we could get through week 1 basically, and it felt like it was going to be potentially a pretty special season. We can't win 7 state championships down here anymore like we did in 2019, I think that was. But right now we got, I guess the ranked Max Preps, I think, updates their national rankings on Monday, so it could change, I guess, by the time people are listening to this. But going into Monday, there were 8 teams ranked in the national top 100 from South Florida. Columbus is going to be moving up on that list too after beating Tampa Jesuit over the weekend. You've got Central up at number 4 after beating IMG. All those teams took care of business in the Broward showcase at the start of the year. So, yeah, I mean, it's a good year, I feel like, to restart this show because there's a lot to talk about.
Actually, this just in. No, not quite just in. But Max Preps did put 3 teams in the top 10 now. You have okay. Central and St. Thomas were already there, and Chaminade moved up to number 10 today. It came out, I think, probably half an hour ago or so as of this recording. But yeah, 3 in the top 10 now. And that was the big discussion that I kind of wanted to start off with this week in the show to kind of debut this. The game of all games that unfortunately isn't on the schedule. We probably won't see it, but what a shame. I mean, Central and Chaminade have been extremely dominant. Central, with that victory over IMG, put its name firmly in the national title picture. And now Chaminade, I mean, I was there Saturday, pretty much obliterated a very good Northwestern team.
Yeah, Northwestern was number 30 going into the weekend nationally. So
yeah.
Right.
So let's I mean, I don't know let's talk about it. Let's put it out there. If this game did happen, Central and Chaminade, who do you think would win? You've seen both teams at this point. You've seen the strengths and maybe any few, if any, weaknesses either side has.
Yeah, I think Central obviously I think both of us. What do you have them at the start of the year? 2 or 3 in your local rankings? We were both really high on them coming into the year, but obviously I don't think either of us thought they were going to go beat IMG, so they've exceeded expectations. Chaminade was like, did you have a number 1? I think it was between basically them, Central, and St. Thomas, obviously, for that top spot. But at the start of the year, I kind of felt like Chaminade was probably the team to beat down here this year. And obviously they've done nothing to change my opinion. Obviously Central, like I said, has been even better than I think we thought. But Chaminade, just because they haven't given me a reason to doubt them. I think that win against Northwestern, you were there, obviously. Anytime you can beat a team like that the way they did, that's a statement, certainly.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing I think with Chaminade is the big play potential of this team. I mean, they got off the bus. They were actually arrived about 25 minutes before kickoff. Had to hurry to get off the bus, get into warm-ups, all that. And then in the sweltering heat at 11 in the morning down there at Traz, it didn't even matter. They hit the big play, hit a 50-yard pass on the first, I think it was to Jeremiah Smith, who we'll hear from in a minute. And they were off to the races. I mean, it was 7-7 afterward. And we'll look at that clip now in a second. I want to show you Teron Dickens, because to give Northwestern some credit, I mean, they lost their top running back, Jamari Ford. Yeah. It was some kind of a shoulder injury. Don't know specifics on it, but he tried to go back in a couple times, give it a go, and it kept, acting up on him. Couldn't, had to leave the game pretty much after midway through the first quarter. And that was a big weapon that they lost. But let's take a look real quick at our first clip here. Teron Dickens just showing you the quarterback in Northwestern, who was our player of the year last year, showing you his ability, not just with his arm, but to get first downs. So see right there, Northwestern kind of felt good about itself. You tied it up, but then came a nice goal line stand that Chaminade came up with, which was pretty much the turning point of the game. Wayne Pert, who had 6 sacks against Dillard, right in the middle of it, and just plugged the hole like he's been doing the whole season so far. And that was the swing right there. Then Chaminade had a goal line situation at the other end, capitalized, and then from that point on, it was just an avalanche. And we can see, I mentioned Smith before, Jeremiah Smith, and the kind of ability that he has. Let's take a look here real quick. Here's a great catch he made in the corner of the end zone in traffic, and it just shows you how this kid could be playing on Saturday right now. And by Saturday, I mean college on Saturday, not Saturday.
He was playing Saturday, technically, yes.
Yeah, so he's warming up for that. So so I mean, again, it just shows you just how loaded they are. And let's we talked to Jeremiah Smith after the game a little bit. So let's hear about the win. Let's hear how big this was for their program, because every week it doesn't seem there's a let up in that schedule.
Hit a bomb and you guys we're ready.
We planned out the whole week. We just going through it. I mean, defense they was saying, our coach he called and we executed.
Yeah. What was this game like? You don't even know if you're playing Thursday. You get it canceled. You don't even know if you're going to play.
It was crazy. I mean, Coach Jones, he was on the phone. I'm trying to get a game, trying to figure out what time we gonna play. I mean, it was crazy because he was just telling us stay hydrated. You never know. We might play Saturday morning, so I mean, it was tough because we didn't really even know like that. He told us, we were just ready to go out this shit.
Statement you guys want to make today?
Oh, we made a statement because all the talking they was doing and stuff like that, so we had to come out strong.
Yeah, the talking was going on. In fact, they were doing the horns down the whole game. They did a group photo. You know how like the Canes, when they did the turnover chain, everybody got up on the bench and did the whole thing? They even did that, all doing horns down to kind of show up Northwestern a little bit. And when you win 42-14, you can kind of back that up, can't you?
Yeah. And the thing I love about the Chaminade team, obviously their skill guys get all the attention. Jeremiah Smith's a 5-star wide receiver. JoJo Trader's a 5-star wide receiver. They got a 4, all these juniors, the quarterback Cedric Bailey's got big Power 5 offers. Davion Goss, their running back, was our player of the year for Broward County last year, but they've got 3 like Power 5 offensive linemen. You mentioned Wayne Pert, another guy in the middle. So they've got not only maybe the best skill guys in the county or in the region, but maybe the best offensive line too. And that's the difference for them this year, I think.
Yeah. And switching gears, I mean, talking about the Rockets a little bit, we want a big part of this show is going to be not just us yapping about all the games and all the athletes like we're doing right now, but we're going to bring you a lot of pertinent info and that sort of thing, but also talking to those people directly. And David got a chance to talk to Coach Jude Joseph his first season with Central as a head coach. He's been there already a few years as a defensive coordinator, but you really see the discipline. You really see how just in a few months he's left his imprint already on this team in the way they're playing week to week. And you got a chance to talk to him for a little bit. So let's see that interview now with Coach Joseph.
We're now joined by Jude Joseph, coach of Miami Central, first-year coach of Miami Central, who's now up to number 4 in the national rankings according to Max Preps. Had a huge win in week 1, another good competitive win on Friday against Booker T. Washington in their first game down here in Miami for the season. Jude, we'll get to that in just a second, but I mean, you got your guys' win against IMG to start the year is still probably the best win anyone has had in high school football so far this season. You guys go over there. Not a lot of teams go to their place and win. We know they've always got great offensive linemen. I mean, they look like a college or NFL line with that size. They're always obviously one of the deepest teams in the country. So how did you guys go over there and knock them off?
Man, we just came out there and with the mindset of playing rocket football and upholding our standard that we of hard work and basically playing together and knowing that we had an opportunity to showcase our talents on a big stage and our kids delivered.
And then you get a week off after that. Then you come back and play Booker T. Washington, who obviously, traditional power down here in South Florida, had been not their usual selves for the last couple of years, but you guys got a real test from them. Down late in the first half, had to score a late touchdown just to be tied at halftime and then pull away a little bit down the stretch. But that was a 3-point game with about 10 minutes left. So just kind of, to me, it spoke to the depth of talent we have here in South Florida. You guys are chasing a national championship, but every week pretty much is going to be tough, right?
Right. I mean, you play football down in South Florida, man, up like the school, next school, you probably like 3 minutes away, has just as much talent as you do any given week. You can get your head knocked off, man, and it just shows how dedicated and how great the football atmosphere is within the South Florida community.
So what do you learn from a game like that, where obviously you guys are a little, I'm sure a little high coming off that Central game, and then not a reality check because obviously you guys come away with a win, but a reminder, right, that every week is going to be tough.
I came away with just understanding what my team was. I feel like, at the end of the day, we needed that type of adversity for these guys to be able to come together and showcase their talents. I mean, we saw some good things, saw some bad things. Also, there was a lot of teachable moments in that game for the kids, and not only the kids, but the staff included. And we were able to come out and do what we had to do.
So I mentioned at the top, it's your first year as the head coach at Central. This is your fourth year, though. You've won 3 state champions as a 3 state championships as a defensive coordinator. You've been around at a lot of different schools, both in Miami and across the state. You played at Central. So what was you're coming in, you're replacing a legend in Roland Smith, who obviously you worked for a few years. What was your mentality coming in of wanting to, you obviously know all the tradition there at Central. You were part of that tradition there at Central. You know what worked during this run of state championships. When you came in, how do you balance that, what's already there, and trying to want to put your own stamp on it too as head coach?
I mean, I think it's pretty simple. I got the notion of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But I also had the mindset of trying to enhance the brand and take it to another level. Add my own little twist to certain things, and the kids and the community and the staff are very receptive of what we're trying to do now with the program. And just on a day-to-day basis, man, culturally, you can feel it. It's a shift in our demeanor as far as intention and as far as discipline. And we're just going to continue to do that day in and day out.
National championship obviously has been the goal there the last couple of years. Now you guys are kind of with a chance to do it when you get a win like IMG, and that's something you guys don't shy away from there, right? A lot of people will just be like, just focus day to day, but you guys have that bigger vision, right? Where you want to win a national title.
Right. We have that bigger vision, but, at the same time, I always tell my kids, a goal without objectives is a dream. You know what I'm saying? And the objectives is what we're really driven on, focusing on the little things and doing the little things with great detail and focusing on those. And that's what's going to get us to where we're trying to go as a team and as a program.
And I just wanted to ask you, since this is our first episode, we're trying to encapsulate the whole Florida football scene a little bit here. When you guys went over there and beat IMG, that was part of kind of a landmark weekend a little bit for South Florida, where it was the inaugural Broward showcase and pretty much all those teams won. You look at the Max Preps rankings will be updated today, but I think we've got, what do we have? 8 teams right now in the top 100, and Columbus should be rising after they beat a top 25 team in Jesuit right now. Obviously, South Florida is always really good, but how much kind of pride do you take everyone seems to root for each other down here, right? How much pride do you get out of seeing a weekend like that in the way that you guys are always just trying to prove that Miami is the best, right?
And it's the best football played in South Florida time and time again. You can bring whoever you want to down in our counties, and we're going to show up. We don't shy from anywhere. We don't shy from anybody. And at the end of the day, our kids are resilient, they're athletic, and they're competitive. And you can't find that on the stat sheet, but you'll find that on the field in South Florida football.
Jude Joseph, thanks for joining us. Central on that quest for a state championship, 2-0 right now. Thanks again for joining us, and hopefully we'll have you on a little bit later on in the season too.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you.
I should have just let Jube explain why we called it Titletown.
Exactly.
That was perfect. I mean, that would have been saved a lot of time of me trying to say exactly everything. But yeah, it shows you. I mean, I love what he's doing right over there. I mean, it's such a team with such tradition over there, and there's many like it in South Florida. But 7 state championships. I mean, I remember years before when they couldn't beat Northwestern ever when it really counted, and it took them until finally clearing that hurdle when the Devontae Freemans came along.
It's really in the last 15 years, basically.
Exactly. Yeah, and now to go from that to what they've been is pretty remarkable in that amount of time. And we're talking so much about Central and Chaminade, but in fairness, St. Thomas and Heritage are both up there too. I mean, you can make a case for
St.
any
Thomas
of the four.
kind of feels like the forgotten team a little bit.
Which is rare for them.
They're also 3-time defending state champions. They had a lot of turnover, which I think is just kind of left questions. But obviously,
right,
they're going to get tested plenty this year, and they're in the Dillard is another top 100 team nationally that they're going to wind up meeting potentially at some point down the road. So I mean, you can pick it out of a hat, kind of who the top team in South Florida is.
Yeah, it shows you just what a shame it is that they've done what they've done, and only 4 can win state titles, because honestly, this could be a year where it's 6 or 7, like it was a few years ago. But anyway, on that note, let's get to the segment people I know really like to talk about, and that's the picks of the week. We're going to look at 3 games in particular, and we're going to start with. We're going to leave the best for last, the one that I think everybody knows, the one we're getting to last. But let's start with those Raiders of St. Thomas Aquinas that have a pretty good challenge on their hands. They pretty much handled Cocoa last week. Cocoa not as good as the old Cocoa, but still they did what they were supposed to do, 42-14. And now they get a quality team in Western that has a really an array of weapons on offense. Is one of the best quarterbacks down here, maybe arguably the best quarterback down here in Colin Hurst. And they barely escaped at Coconut Creek with some weather issues in that game too. But I'm curious to see how they match up, because Western is a legit state title contender in Class 4M. What do you think of this matchup?
I mean, I like Aquinas in it, but again, like nothing against Western, who, like you said, is a legit contender in 4M. We've got a couple good teams there, but St. Thomas, like I said, they're number 5 in the country for a reason. Like they got overshadowed, I think, a little bit because of the win that Central had, and just the amount of like 5-star talent that Chaminade does. But St. Thomas is always pretty much the deepest team in South Florida. Typically have the best offensive line in South Florida. So, the Western can, obviously they've got the offensive talent to hang with them, but just when you look at a team that has the depth that St. Thomas does, you kind of expect them to wear the other team down as the game goes on. And like I said, I think St. Thomas is just as good as probably some of these other teams we've talked a little bit more about.
Yeah, St. Thomas they always seem to be like a hybrid of a typical Florida team and a typical Texas team. The size up front, but then the skill of South Florida. So and this team may not be as ridiculously loaded as some of the ones in the past, but there's still plenty of talent enough. And I think I agree with you. I think this game is a good obstacle for them early on, but they get through it and stay undefeated. So after that game, let's shift down to the 305. And here's one where at the beginning of the year, you're looking at it as potentially one of these two could end up winning the Class 4M title. And you still feel that way about Columbus, but Palmetto, you still want to feel that way a little bit about them just based on what they have. But so far, they have not performed up to expectations. The Panthers have struggled. They're 1-2. And even the win against Killian wasn't as dominant as you'd expect it to be, considering the shape that team's in. So, they walk away with the Big Cat Trophy last week. But what happens this week when they take on Columbus, who I've seen now twice, and they look like they have all the ingredients?
I like Columbus in this one. At the start of the year, it's a game I might have had Palmetto in, but I think their offense has just been – I saw them play Homestead a couple of weeks back, and it was really rough. Then they go up to Clearwater Academy International and get blown out a little bit there. Columbus, I mean, they're coming off that win against Jesuit. They're one of the best coached teams in South Florida. And it's not like they're lacking talent either. I think they got a good quarterback. Obviously, Cedric Irvin, their running back, just had kind of a breakout performance last weekend, and they've got studs up front on defense too. So, this is a game that we might see 2 or 3 times this year, depending on how the season goes. But I think Columbus right now is the better team than Palmetto, certainly.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I mean, I've seen them twice now, and this may be a first if we count the old shows we used to have, high school shows. I'm going to mention a punter on this show. Columbus even has that, and Christian DeVilliers is the kid. This kid is putting the ball up there for at least 5-6 seconds and hitting punts of at least 50, 55, and he pins teams inside the 10. I mean, he's a complete package. I mean, we may have our all-county punter already. It's not official, but I'd be surprised if he's not. But that's how deep they are. Their defense is solid, like you mentioned. Alberto Mendoza, the quarterback, can distribute the ball, and Cedric Irvin's all over the place. He's the focal point of that offense, and I think if that mix continues, they should come out on top. And On that note, we're going to go back to Broward and the one we were talking about, where here's where American Heritage, I think, can make a statement, where all this Chaminade talk and all this hoopla of them, and are they going to be in position to win the national title? Well, Heritage is saying 1 second, because they've had some impressive wins, and now they're going to go down to Hollywood and playing unquestionably the game of the week this week. And now it's a matchup of the number 10 team in the country of Chaminade against the number 13 ranked team in the country in American Heritage. So that's going to be a doozy down there. How do you see it shaping up, David?
Yeah, I agree with you that this is a chance for Heritage to make a statement, who obviously is way up there in the national rankings, like you said, but kind of like the last couple of years, the offense has been a little underwhelming. Like they haven't been, they didn't win a state championship last year like these other three teams we talk about as the top teams in South Florida. Ultimately, I think Chaminade, though, as we saw on Saturday, it's going to be really hard for anyone to slow them down. I think they just have so many weapons on offense. They have such a good offensive line, and they've got, he's kind of flown under the radar this year because they've got Jeremiah Smith and JoJo Trader there, but Davion Goss is maybe the best running back in Broward County. So I think Heritage has a better defense, I think, than Northwestern does, which makes me think it can be a little bit more competitive. I don't know if their offense is as good as Northwestern's is, but at the same time, I think Chaminade right now, there's no reason to think they're not in a different class than another really good team like Heritage.
I'm on a special teams kick this week, because I'm going to say that again. Be careful in this game with Chaminade's punt blocking, because it's 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, Zaquan Patterson had like 8 punt blocks last year or something crazy.
Yeah, and he had the one against Dillard, and now they had another one this week against Northwestern that also helped swing the tide in that game. So that could be a big play at some point. I mean, yeah, I'd love to see Davion Goss just get the ball even more in this game. I think this is the type of game where Chaminade's offensive line has to really control and sustain some drives, because they can hit the big play, but I haven't really seen them sustain a lot of long drives yet. This may be the game that they have to do it. And to me, that on the flip side, that's how Heritage can pull this off and maybe beat them, is if Mark Fletcher's getting the ball and they can do something similar on offense. But if they can't, then it's going to be a long night for them. I'm going to go with the Lions, just because until proven otherwise, this looks like the best team right now. But I think it'll be a close game, and it could come down to one of those big plays on one of those 3 phases of the game. Well, that wraps it up for this week. It was a good episode 1, and we look forward to bringing this to you. Like I said before, David and I are both going to be hosting this once a week for you guys, and Jordan McPherson, once he's done covering the Miami Marlins, is going to jump on. In fact, he's going to jump on next week with you, David, and talk a little bit about what's going on in week 5. By then, we'll see who wins these big matchups from this week. But check out all our work. Check out David, does a great job in recruiting for us. Check out all his work, Jordan's, myself, on MiamiHerald.com. David, give them your Twitter address where they can follow you.
Yeah, follow me at DBWilson2, and be sure to check out all the Herald Sports podcasts as well. I host a couple of those, the Heat and Hurricanes. So plenty of content for whatever team you care about in South Florida, even if it's a high school team. And all those are on Apple, Spotify, iTunes, you name it. It's there. Pick them up, download them, give them a listen. They do a lot of great things there. Daniel Leofusi with the Dolphins as well. And we'll be seeing you guys next week. And let's see, as we go on the road to, not very far down the road, to Fort Lauderdale, to the state championships, we'll have you covered. Thanks for joining us.